Hey guys, what's up? It's Rygar the Destroyer, and today we're going to be taking a look at every single Clone Trooper figure that's been released in the Black Series so far. This will be a part 1 video. I don't know when part 2 will be coming out. Obviously, in the future, more Clone Troopers will be released, and I'll kind of update this series when that happens. Now some eagle-eyed viewers may notice that two of the figures that are up here aren't technically Clone Troopers, but they are on the clone body, and we'll talk about those later, and that's why they're on the table. And then you may also notice that there are some characters who are missing, most notably Jango and Boba Fett. The reason they're not on here is, frankly, I could not fit any more figures on my backdrop without being able to see around the sides, and I don't have all of the releases of those characters, so I can't include them. So that's why we're going to be talking about all of the figures on the Clone Trooper body in the Black Series so far. So let's go ahead and dive in. Starting off, we've got the Phase 1 Clone Trooper. This is just the standard release in the white, and this kind of started it off for the Clone Troopers in the Black Series line. Now, this figure itself, it's definitely an older Black Series figure, and as you can see, it's got some paint issues on it. Like the visor doesn't quite line up. And that was just, part of the line back then. They've definitely improved a lot. But this figure pretty much set the standard for what all of the Clone Troopers following it would pretty much be. Not much has changed since the first release. This is one, obviously, you'd have to have a blank white Phase 1 Clone Trooper in your collection. It's like having a basic Stormtrooper in your collection. So not a super interesting figure, but definitely one that everyone needs in their collection. Up next, we've got the Phase 1 Clone Sergeant. Now, obviously, this is just a repaint, basic repaint and re-release of the first Clone Trooper figure, but definitely one that you need. Once you've got the Phase 1 Clone Trooper started, you pretty much have to have one in each rank. Some problems with this figure that are a little unusual is that the armor is like a slight yellow color. I'm not sure how well it'll show up on camera because of my lighting, but in person it's just a slight yellow, and that was, brand new from Hasbro. This guy was a little yellowed, so which is a little strange, but it's something that I can overlook, honestly, just because I like the Clone Troopers so much. Up next, we've got the Clone Captain, and I'm sure some of you are starting to notice a pattern here. The next figure is another repaint of the first Phase 1 Clone Trooper, but again, like I said, if you've got the white and the green, you have to continue on with all of the other colors. And Hasbro did a really nice job with this figure. I really like the color of red that they used on this one. I think it looks really good. So I definitely like this one a whole lot. All right, the final Phase 1 Clone Trooper that we're going to look at is the Clone Commander. Again, it's just another repaint of the first Phase 1 Clone Trooper. The one thing that does make this figure different, though, is the fact that it was released in an Amazon exclusive 4-pack. It'll kind of set a trend of a lot of these Clone Troopers being exclusive figures, and we'll talk about that at the end of the video. As well, I'd like to mention that I'm sure some of you have noticed that there's a color missing from the lineup of ranks of these Phase 1 Clone Troopers, and we will also talk about that at the end of the video, so stay tuned. Continuing on, we've got another figure from that same Amazon exclusive 4-pack. This is the first kind of plain Jane Phase 2 Clone Trooper that was released in the Black Series. Now, as you can see, the body is identical to the Phase 1 Clone Trooper. The only real difference is the helmet, which I think Hasbro did a really nice job with this helmet, and we'll see that they started pumping out a lot of repaints of this guy as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of those. The first repaint that we're going to be taking a look at is the 212th Clone Trooper from the Entertainment Earth exclusive 4-pack of Clone Troopers. This is one of my favorite battalions of clones from Star Wars. I really love the design, and Hasbro did an excellent job of repainting that initial figure to match the one from the movie. And they've also done some really nice battle damage on there, which makes this guy look really cool. The next figure from that Entertainment Earth exclusive 4-pack is the 501st Clone Trooper. Again, Hasbro's just done an excellent job repainting that initial figure to match what was seen in the movie with the battle damage and this really cool 501st paint job on there. This is definitely a cool figure, but there are two more that we need to look at. Up next, we've got the Khorasan Guard Clone Trooper, again from that same 4-pack. Really like this figure overall. The red paint really pops, and again with the weathering, looks really cool. I cannot wait to see what other kind of repaints Hasbro will be doing in the future, because the ones that they've already done are really cool. Finally, the last figure from that 4-pack is the 442nd Siege Battalion Clone Trooper, and this guy again just looks awesome, like all of the other ones. Excellent paint, excellent weathering on there, definitely a cool repaint. One thing I will say about the pack that I don't like is that you are getting 4 Clone Troopers in one pack. It definitely is kind of limiting for people who don't have the budget. Because that pack, because it was exclusive and because it's a 4-pack, has just escalated in price. I mean, it is so expensive to find that one. And if you're an army builder, it's so tough to kind of buy these because, you know, every time you buy that pack, you're basically army building 4 different battalions. So definitely kind of an odd choice. I would have thought Hasbro would have released these all individually to kind of pad out waves. Since they're just a basic repaint, I think that would have made more sense for them, but, you know, I can't control what Hasbro does. Up next, we've got the first named Clone Trooper character from the Black Series, and that is Commander Cody. This is also the first character to have the Phase 2 helmet, even though it's a different version of it, was the first one. And one thing that I really like about this figure that I think really makes it cool is that it's got, a different helmet, different shoulder pads, different chest. As you can see, there's battle damage on there, as well as this insignia, as well as a different bicep piece. So definitely adds a whole bunch of pieces to the parts bin. Oh, worth mentioning too, he's got the jump pack on his back. So this figure adds a ton of different pieces to the Hasbro parts bin so that they can kind of kit bash a whole bunch of other clone troopers in the line later. So this is definitely a cool figure. The only bad thing I have to say about it is that it is an early Black Series figure, so the paintwork on it is not great, as you can see on the knee pads here. There's some scuffed paints, and that's how it came, right out of the box. And also, he's a little floppy, so hopefully in the future they may do a re-release where he's got an actual human face underneath his helmet, and maybe kind of some better paintwork and less floppy articulation, but definitely still a cool clone trooper. Up next, we've got Captain Rex here. Now, this particular version of the figure is the, standard release one. There was a version that was a convention exclusive, but I prefer this version here because I've heard that the first version didn't use the face printing tech, unlike this one, and it makes a real big difference on the likeness of this figure, which I think is really cool. Also, this one is the first that we've looked at that has a removable helmet, and even when it's on the figure, it doesn't look too large. It's also got a movable rangefinder thing there, and also some other parts that make it stand out from a standard clone trooper on the shelf, which definitely makes this guy cool. Obviously, everybody loves Captain Rex, so this is one that the Hasbro had to add to the Black Series. Up next, we've got the GameStop exclusive Commander Wolff figure. Again, this figure has a removable helmet, and underneath they've got a really cool likeness of a clone trooper under here, as well with the scar and the cybernetic eye, which is really neat. Obviously, Hasbro could have just put a generic clone trooper head under there, but they did decide to sculpt a custom one since Wolff has a specific face underneath the helmet, which is really cool. Definitely a cool figure, but continuing on a trend of a lot of exclusive figures being clone troopers, so definitely something that we'll talk about at the end. Continuing on, we've got the Toys R Us exclusive Commander Grief figure. Now, there was a re-release of this figure. As far as I'm aware, it's identical in every way. It was just an online retailer exclusive, just because the initial Toys R Us release was so hard to get your hands on, but both versions of the figure are really cool. This figure is one of my favorites in the line, just because of the camo paint job that he's got. It really makes him stand out on the shelf, and he has got a whole bunch of parts that are only on this figure, basically. These little suspenders are sculpted onto his chest, And on his back, he's got a whole bunch of extra pieces that have been added on there, which is really cool. And then he also comes with this little pouch on his side, again sculpted on there, and some micro binoculars or macro binoculars or whatever, which is a cool accessory since he did have them in the movie. Definitely makes this guy really cool. Up next, we've got the GameStop exclusive Clone Commander Fox, everybody's favorite character. And, you know, all joking aside, this guy is really cool. You know, people may not like him as a character, but his design is really sweet. And everything about him really makes him stand out on the shelf. I, really like his dark red paint job. It's just kind of unique and really makes him stand out from all of the other clone troopers when you've got him displayed. So definitely one that I like, even though he's not my favorite character. Up next is one that's not technically a clone trooper, but it is on the clone trooper body, and that is the Clone Commander Obi-Wan Kenobi. This was a Walgreens exclusive, and it's based on a version of Obi-Wan from the original Tartakovsky Clone Wars, which is really cool. It's something that I never thought we would see in the Black Series. As far as I was aware, that show was basically blacklisted. No characters from it were really ever going to get any releases, any modern releases anyway. But they went ahead and decided to do it, and he looks awesome. This particular figure has an amazing likeness to Ewan McGregor, and just a really cool figure overall. Definitely stands out on the shelf just because he's in clone armor, but he still feels like a Jedi, with his robes and everything. Alright, the last figure on the list is the Purge Stormtrooper, and this guy is kind of unusual in that he was a pack-in with the Jedi Fallen Order game. If you ordered a specific version of the game, you would get this guy packed in with it, which makes him a little bit harder to get your hands on. Obviously, you have to buy like a $70 game to get the figure, which makes him pretty expensive to get your hands on, but definitely worth it. And I know that he's not technically a clone trooper. Obviously, he's on the clone trooper body, but he is, called a stormtrooper. Whatever. As far as I'm concerned, he's a clone trooper, and he looks fantastic. The black and red looks so cool, and definitely makes him different than every other figure that's been released as far as clone troopers are concerned so far. So this guy is really cool and is definitely worth the pain that it takes to track this guy down. Now that we've taken a look at each Black Series Clone Trooper figure kind of in detail, I sort of want to talk about a problem that I have with Clone Troopers in the Black Series line. And that is the number of these figures that are exclusives. And I think it's a little shocking that these, out of all of the figures we looked at, are the ones that are exclusives. In fact, there are only 5 of these figures that you could buy off of the pegs normally. All of the rest of them, you have to hunt them down at specific stores, which is, really hard. And some of these characters are ones that are fan favorites, you know what I mean? Gree and Wolff, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Obviously, the 212th and 501st Clone Troopers, those are definitely popular enough to justify a standard release. And it's something that I don't really understand. I understand that retailers want something good as an exclusive to draw people into their store, but I think some of these characters are so important that they should just be released in the regular line, and that would draw people into the store to begin with. So I really hope that in the future, Hasbro doesn't continue releasing these Clone Trooper figures as exclusives, because there are plenty of people out there who are just like me, who grew up with the prequel movies and with the Clone Wars and really have a strong connection with these characters. And it's kind of hard for people like that to add these guys to their collection. So hopefully in the future, Hasbro will kind of change that up. The last thing that I want to talk about in this video are some clone troopers that I think we need in the line, and some figures that I would like to see in the line. And the one figure that I think the Black Series line needs as far as clone troopers is concerned is one that I'm sure all of you know. It's almost a meme at this point. It's been said so many times, and that is your blue Phase 1 clone trooper, your clone lieutenant. I don't know why Hasbro hasn't released one. At this point, honestly, it's the easiest thing in the world for them to do. Obviously, it's just a repaint of a figure that you've released already 4 times. So I don't know why Hasbro hasn't done that yet. But some other figures that I think would make a nice addition to the line would be something like a Kashyyyk Trooper or a 41st Elite Trooper to go along with the Commander Gree. I'd also like to see a Wolfpack clone to go along with Wolff, and you know, just some other characters that we've seen in the Clone Wars. You know, Echo and Fives. Maybe Fordo. Seeing that Tartakovsky Obi-Wan really gives me hope that we may eventually get a Fordo figure. And you know, finally, this is one that I'm sure is just me, but some of my favorite clone troopers are the Republic Commandos, and hopefully they will get a release in the line at some point. Because honestly, you know, once they're in, you can repaint them as many times as you want. I'm not sure if that's one that everybody wants, but it's definitely one that I want. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully there will be a part 2 to this video at some point, and I guess see you later.